The studio was quiet now. The sound of traffic from the street below was just a soft murmur. Mrs. Evans sat on her piano bench, her hands resting gently in her lap. She looked around the room. Sunlight fell across the faded carpet, lighting up tiny specks of dust dancing in the air. This room had been full of music for so many years. The sounds of scales, of hesitant beginner songs, of triumphant concert pieces. Now, it was mostly silent. She was retiring. Today was the day of her very last lesson. Her final student was named Leo. He was a boy of 12, with serious eyes and a habit of looking at the floor. He had been coming to her for 3 months, but he still played so softly you could barely hear the notes. He was shy, Mrs. Evans thought. Or perhaps afraid. Afraid of the music, or of making a mistake, or of the sound of his own voice coming through the piano. The doorbell rang, its familiar chime echoing in the empty apartment. Mrs. Evans smiled and went to answer it. There was Leo, with his school backpack almost bigger than he was. "Hello, Leo," she said, her voice warm. "Come in. It's a beautiful day for some music." Leo nodded quietly and walked to the piano. He took out his book. It was the same book all her beginners used. He opened it to page 15, a song called The Quiet River. He placed his fingers on the keys, took a breath, and began to play. The notes were correct. Everyone was in the right place. But the music had no heart. It was like listening to someone read a list of numbers. Soft, careful, and sad. "The river in the song," she said, pointing to the title. "Is it a wide river, or a narrow stream? Is it flowing fast over rocks, or is it moving slowly, dreaming under the sun? Is the sun shining on it? Are there birds nearby? When you play, you must tell me about the river." Leo looked down at the keys, confused. "I don't know how to do that," he whispered. Mrs. Evans gently moved to sit beside him on the bench. "Then let's not play from the book today," she said. She closed it. "Let me tell you a story. About this piano. And about me." She pointed to a small faded photograph on top of the piano. It showed a young girl with big frightened eyes, sitting at this very same piano. "That was me," Mrs. Evans said. "I was even more shy than you are. I was so afraid to play loud. I thought if I made a big sound, everyone would look at me, and they would see all my mistakes. My teacher, an old man with kind hands, told me something. He said, 'Clara, the piano is not a machine. It is a voice. Your voice. And you must not be afraid to speak.'" She placed her own old, wrinkled hands on the keys. "He told me to forget the notes for a moment. He told me to play the sound of a storm." She played a loud, crashing chord. Leo jumped a little. Then she played a series of quick, light high notes. And then the sound of rain stopping, and little drops of water falling from the leaves. She played a single low, deep note that vibrated through the room. And the sound of the earth after the rain. Deep and quiet. She turned to Leo. His eyes were wide. It wasn't a song from a book. It was just feeling. Just sound. That is where confidence begins. Not in being perfect, but in being brave enough to make a sound. She nodded to the keys. "You try. Don't look at the book. Play me an angry sound." Hesitantly, Leo pressed a group of keys hard with his fist. It was a messy, noisy clash of sound. He flinched, expecting a correction. "Good," said Mrs. Evans. "Now play a happy sound." Leo thought, then played a little skipping pattern up the white keys. "Wonderful. Now a lonely sound." This took him longer. He played one note, then waited a long time, then played another note far away from the first. The space between them felt empty and quiet. Mrs. Evans's smile was bright. "You see? You are already speaking. Now, let's go back to your river. But this time, you tell me its story." Leo turned back to page 15. He placed his fingers. He thought of a river he saw once in a park. It was slow and green, and had a single yellow leaf floating on it. He began to play. The notes were the same. But now, the melody flowed. Some notes were a little louder, like a gentle ripple. Some notes were held longer, like deep, still water. He wasn't just playing notes anymore. He was playing the picture in his mind. When he finished, the last note hung in the sunlit air. He looked at Mrs. Evans. There were tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. "That," she said softly, "was the most beautiful quiet river I have ever heard. You found your voice, Leo." For the rest of the lesson, they didn't talk much about technique. They talked about stories. They played sounds of trains, of wind, of a cat stretching in the sun. The room, so quiet before, was now full of life and noise and feeling. The piano was alive again. Finally, the hour was over. Leo packed his books slowly. "Is this really your last lesson?" he asked. "It is," Mrs. Evans said. "My hands are getting tired. It's time to let the music live in other people's hands now." Leo stood by the door. "Thank you, Mrs. Evans." "No, thank you, Leo," she said. "You gave my last melody a wonderful sound to remember." Leo left, and the apartment was quiet again. But the silence felt different now. It wasn't empty. It was peaceful, like the space after a beautiful song has ended. Mrs. Evans walked to the window and watched Leo walk down the street, his step a little lighter than before. She returned to the piano bench. She didn't play a famous sonata or a difficult piece. She simply placed her hands on the keys and played Leo's version of the Quiet River. She played it slowly, feeling every note, every ripple of memory. She played for the young girl in the photograph. She played for all the students whose voices she had helped to find. And she played for herself, one last time, in the warm afternoon sun. The last melody was not an ending. It was a gift passed on, now flowing out into the world in the hands of a shy boy who was no longer afraid to be heard.